So if your audio sounds like this in your videos and you want it to sound more like this in your videos, this is gonna be the video for you. I'm gonna show you some tips, just how I really easily make my audio sound super crispy, super spicy. Let's get right into it. So the first thing you wanna do is use an external microphone, not the one in your camera. You're gonna wanna get an external microphone, a separate microphone that is plugged into your camera, but it's placed as close to your mouth as possible. So if I zoom out a little bit, you can actually see right here is the microphone that I'm using, which is the Deity D3 Pro. I highly recommend this microphone, which is hooked onto this mic stand, which is anchored to my tripod using this little mounting bracket thing. It's on the same mounting bracket as my camera, as you can see, which makes it really easy to just like take my tripod, move it around, and I can pretty much film wherever I want with a similar placement of the microphone. As you can see, the microphone is pretty far above my head and it's facing down. So really, I just aimed this microphone down to like my chin area. That's really only like maybe not even a foot from my mouth right here. And it's purely subjective whether you want the microphone to be visible in your shot or if you want it to be like off camera somewhere. I personally prefer my microphone to be off camera, i.e. not visible in the actual frame. So another thing you definitely want to consider when recording good spicy audio is your space itself. One thing I try to minimize in my studio setup is the amount of echo, the amount of reverberation in my voice that kind of bounces off the walls and corners and everything. I don't want that kind of reverb to be in my shot as much as possible. So what I've done is added a couple pretty thick rugs, just like pretty cheap rugs from IKEA, to the floor of my space. And also I have really thick curtains on my windows. The curtains act basically like sound panels, which soak up some of that extra reverberation. So sometimes when I'm recording, I'll actually close my curtains all the way. And really almost any decorations, anything you have in your space, like a bookshelf, area rugs, a chair, a couch, a bed, whatever is in your space kind of acts as a sound absorption material. So just be mindful of your space itself and just add a bunch of knickknacks if you can. Add almost anything to your space, especially fabric. That will soak up a lot of the unwanted kind of reverb behind your voice. And then getting the microphone as close as I can to my mouth. I think that makes the biggest difference in terms of your recording signal before you actually start recording. So the next thing you want to do is go into your camera settings and change your audio gain level, which means the amount of audio level like coming from your voice or whatever you're filming. You want to make sure that it's not clipping, it's not going to that red zone where it'll start distorting and stuff. So it depends on your camera, but on my Sony a7 IV, there's something called audio record level. You can usually find this in your camera's audio settings. And when I bring up the audio record level, you can see that there's like these green lines, but you want to keep your audio in that green level. You don't want the audio to go into the red 0 dB because then it could actually sound kind of distorted. So for me, you can see level 13 is about right. I'm getting a really strong, nice signal. It's getting a little hot actually. I might even want to turn that down a little bit. And then at that point, you just start recording. So once you capture your clips, you want to take it into your video editor. I use Final Cut Pro on my Mac, and let me show you how I process the audio. So here's a sample project where I've imported a bunch of clips from the same camera, same microphone setup. So over here in Final Cut Pro, you can see that I've added these effects to my voice. One of which is this channel EQ, which is a graphic equalizer. It's kind of like tuning your car radio or something. And as you can see, I have filtered out a bunch of the lower frequencies, like the sub bass frequencies in my voice, because sometimes there's like a rumble in the background. And then I have the 50 hertz to about 500 hertz range. I boosted that just a little bit so it makes my voice a little bit bassier, I guess you could say. And then from about 2K to 20K, I've boosted that area just a little bit. It adds a little bit of that sparkly kind of crispness to the sound. You don't necessarily have to include an EQ in your audio effects, but I think it can filter out some of the unwanted frequencies and also add a little bit of oomph to your sound. So that's the EQ. And then I also have the limiter effect. The limiter is kind of like bringing up your audio level without it maxing out and going into the red line zone. So as you can see, my settings are I've added 5 dB in the gain, and then I have the output level at minus 0.5 dB, which basically means if it gets into the red zone or close to it, it'll bring the overall volume down without actually going into the red zone, and it'll always max out at minus 0.5 dB. So if I turn off the effects over here, this is what the audio sounds like before the effects. I still wish there was a way you could kind of manually EQ things, because sometimes I do want the trebles to be a little sharper in these. And if I turn the effects back on, here's that same clip. I still wish there was a way you could kind of manually EQ things, because sometimes I do want the trebles to be a little sharper in these. So it may be a little hard to hear because it's going through my laptop speakers, but there's an added bass, there's a little bit of added treble, there's a little bit more presence. And also in Final Cut Pro, you might want to press on this little icon right there, which brings up your overall gain and stuff. You never want the audio to go above 0 because that means that it'll actually be clipping. It'll be distorting a little bit. So while that's open, I will play my clip and I will monitor kind of constantly while I'm watching and editing my video to make sure that this is going up to about 0, but it's never actually going above that. It's not going to be distorted, but it'll be nice and clear and crisp. So this combination of just a simple channel EQ effect where I boosted the bass, boosted the treble a little bit, plus the limiter effect, which brought up the overall volume without actually clipping it or distorting it, those two things are seriously going to make a huge difference towards making it sound nice and loud and clear in your actual YouTube videos. And if you're just starting out trying to get better sound, I would really advise you to play around and experiment with the placement of the microphone, you know, the placement of the lights, even the angle of your camera. There's so many things that will change how your audio sounds in your videos. And these are just some of the tips that I have learned over my experience in YouTube. But let me know in the comments if you have any tips for other people as well. Like, what's your favorite microphone? Do you prefer your microphone visible, not visible, etc.? I'd love to hear from y'all in the comments. And if you watched all the way to the end of this video, let me know that you watched to the end by dropping a headphones emoji down in the comments below. And I hope this video was helpful for you. Smash the like button if it was and subscribe down below. Add me on social media at B3NAQUA, and I will see you in the next video.